Hey everybody, Jacob here from Hainline Manufacturing. In this video we're going to be going over some maintenance of cleaning out the mill, taking the vise out, cleaning the vise. We'll be doing maintenance on the vise, and then at the end of the video I'll show how to tram a vise in and just make sure everything's nice and indicated, so when we machine the part everything's going to be perfect. So let's get started. Okay, the vise is out of the machine. I got all the bolts and hardware up here on the top. The vise is right here, and we're going to start taking this apart. So we're going to take the back jaw off first, which we're going to take this set screw out. And when we take the set screw out, that's going to relieve pressure on the half moon washer, and we can actually take the back jaw off, and then we'll start disassembling the rest. So let's get started. These Tormach vices are metric, so you're going to need a metric set of Allen keys. You're going to need the 5mm to take out this back set screw. So this is actually a jam set screw basically. So if we take this out, there's another one inside here. So this one just puts pressure on the first one to make sure that it stays where it's at. So we'll pull that out. And one is longer than the other in most cases. So take the small one, set it aside. That one goes at the beginning. And then this long one goes at the very front. And once we do that, should be able to wiggle it and should be able to pull the jaw right off. We'll come up, turn it over, and right here is that half moon washer I was telling you guys about. Basically the set screw comes through here, and then the moon washer sits against an angled part of the casting, which then pulls it actually down when you tighten it. So we'll set that over here, and now we'll just start cleaning it and getting all the chips out of it. So we vacuumed out most of the chips. So now I want to take the nut and I want to back it off so I can actually pull it out of it. But first we have to take off this back side. So to take off the back side, we have to flip the vise over. And there's two screws on this back side right here. So you break those loose and it actually separates the back jaw and comes off, and there's a key in here to align it. So this one right here is 8mm. So when you put it in, it's going to be pretty tight. So you're going to have to give it a little oomph to break it loose. Okay, I was having a little trouble there trying to get these loose. So what I end up doing, I end up putting the vise handle in it so then I could hold this and pull it. And then I can pull on this and actually break it loose. So I'm kind of just squeezing it together to loosen this back. So we'll go ahead and take it off. Back that out. We'll take this off. So I put these in there really tight from last time. So I ended up telling on its side, taking a dead blow, and ended up just tapping it, broke it loose. So I'm going to turn it back over. It's smart when you're taking stuff apart to remember how it goes. So I usually lay it with how I took it out. So then when I go to put it back in, I know exactly the order I took them out in, so I can put it back in. Or take notes or photos when you're taking stuff apart. Makes it really easy to put stuff back together. Then you're not wondering what all the parts are for. So we'll flip this back over. Don't grab it by the top because it will come off just like it just did. Grab it by the bottom of the casting. So top part's off. And right there's the key I was telling you about. the key that's in there is kind of pressed in there last time I put it in there, so it's gonna be kind of hard to take out. So I'm using a shop vac. So this nozzle is something I actually 3D printed. I wanted something small so I could really get into tight spaces, whether in the machine or just anywhere else. So I ended up 3D printing this, and there's some tape on the inside, so when I slide it on, there's some resistance so it won't come off. So it's actually a really easy way to make it. Is I ended up just going to Fusion, just drew some circles, connected them, put some tapers in there, put a fine nozzle on it, cut it. Print took like an hour and a half, but when it was done, I had this. It's pretty coarse. It's not real pretty. If I wanted it smoother, I could change some settings on it, but it works for what I want. It works really well. So we're gonna back out this nut. So this is actually a left-hand screw. So when you go left, it's actually pulling the nut towards you. So you're gonna go to the right, and we're just gonna back it down the screw on the inside. But because of that key being in there, we can't take it all the way off. So in order to get the key out, last time I ended up taking some pry bars and kind of picked up on it. I think I'm going to try to hit it from this side with a mallet and just kind of tilt it up, and then I'll pull it out. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, so we're going to give it some love taps on the edge of this key, and we're just going to start pushing out this way. I'm using a mallet for this because I don't want to mushroom or damage the end of this key, and if I miss, I really don't want to hit the side of the vise. So that's why I'm using a soft mallet. So there we go. It's trying to slide out right there. So I'll hit it a little bit more and it should come out, and I can just start tilting this out from the other side. So I'll tap this, I'll pick it up, comes right out. So the key is rectangular, so when you put it in, there's only one right way to put it in. So it's the length size going up and the small side going on the slot. Easy way to put it in so you don't mess it up. So now we can pull the nut out. So this is what I was saying, was that there's slots on the side of this. So there's slots on the side of this, and then inside the vise there's female versions of those slots right here. So that kind of rides up and down when it slides down the body of the vise. So to clean all the gunk and stuff out of here, we could pull the screw out. So to pull the screw out, you got to pull this set screw out, slide the collar off, and then it should be able to come out. There is a Greek zerk right here, so you can lube that so it spins freely inside the casting. So I'm probably just going to leave the screw in it, just because I really don't want to take the screw out, and there's not that many chips and they're all loose, so I'll just brush them to the front, take some air, I'll blow it out, I'll take a rag and clean all the grease off this, and then I'll go get some grease and I'll grease it. I don't have a Greek zerk with me, a tool that can go in there and grease that. Don't have that with me, so I will be doing that later. So I'm going to be using this scraper. So this is a gasket scraper using automotive. So to put it in, I'm just going to put it in, turn and tilt, and then I can actually just push all these chips out to the front. It's like a T-slot cleaner for a mill, but this works really well for a vise, and I can get almost all the chips out of there. So when it comes to using air to blow out stuff, I'll kind of put a rag over it, and I'll blow from this side and it'll all come out the front. So then I'll take another rag, we'll set it in the front so it kind of encloses it. So then when I stick the air hose in, I'll stick it in the back and kind of put my hand over everything. Alright, we got everything wiped off. We're just going to start wiping it out. You're not going to get everything out. If you really want to get everything out, you could put this in a parts washer and just take the brush and start getting it everywhere. I don't have a parts washer, so that's why I'm doing it this way. But at work, I love taking the parts washer and just cleaning out as much as I can. So we'll flip it up, and then we'll take that steel brush, we'll come in here and we'll just scrape it. If you scrape too hard, you'll start taking off the paint, but if you scrape just a little bit, you'll just start taking off all that oil and gunk that's been on there. But I'll just keep doing this. back for the main jaw. Main jaw is real easy. I'm just going to give it a wipe down, blow some of the holes out that have some chips. There is some damage on the vise, but that is from the previous owner of this mill and vise. I haven't made any marks yet in the vise. We'll see as time goes on, but I'm just going to wipe it down, blow all the holes out, and this should be done. And then we'll get the movable jaw over here, clean that out, make sure everything looks nice, and then we'll take the nut, start cleaning. So for blowing out the holes, I'm gonna stick it inside the mill, take the air gun, and just start blowing it out. I'm gonna point it away from me so I don't wear all the chips that come out, because that will happen. The air will just hit the bottom of the hole and it'll come right back out. So I'll do that off camera, and then I'll bring the movable jaw over. All right, movable jaw here. Movable jaw, it's not really too gunky. There are some chips in it. So the inside of it, right there is the screw, which is where we took that backing screw and the other set screw out. So there is an angled part on this casting. I don't know if you can see it or not, but inside there's a crevice, a half moon shape, and that is where this washer sits. So it sits in there, and it basically, it can free spin like 180 and just kind of move around. So the screw pushes on that, and it's a half moon because the set screw allows for some free float for the jaw to move. So I'm sorry, not the set screw. The set screw against the half moon allows it to move. So when the set screw is against that, you can have a little play in it. So the screw sits against that and keeps pressure on it. And this casting's angled, so as you tighten this, the nut pulls against it, and then the angle pulls into the other angle on the nut, and actually kind of pulls the bottom jaw onto the vise and pushes it against that rear, which secures your part. I know some of you are going to say, why aren't you taking the jaws off? Well, I don't really see a need of it right now because I've cleaned underneath the jaws not too long ago. And I know the faces are nice and I stoned them before I put everything together. So I don't really see a need in it. So I'll just be cleaning everything else. But if you want to do a full cleaning, yes, pull the jaws off, clean the jaws, and you clean out the holes. But for this one, we're not going to. So I'm just going to wipe it down, get all the gunk and oil residue off of this. Alright, then that's going to be very easy. We're just going to clean it off. We're going to blow, wrong side. We're going to blow the inside off. We're going to clean the face. I'll probably spray the inside, turn it upside down, let all the fluid drain out of it. And then when I do grease it, I'll put some in the hole, and then I'll put some on the shaft, and I'll just run in and out. Alright, so we let it drain for a little bit, so I'm going to spray some more acetone in it. Take the air gun, blow it out. Got the main body, we're going to start putting it back together. So first I'm going to lubricate this screw. So I got some bearing grease for that. I've used this for just about everything for the past couple of years. Works really nice. Put some on your finger. Just spin the screw around and we'll just start pushing it in. Alright, got the vise here. So we're going to start putting the nut on. So to put the nut on, you're going to put the opening towards the end, of course, because the other side's capped. So we're going to slide her in there. And then when you get to here, you're going to want to kind of pick up on the nut so we can kind of get it started. And you're just going to be twisting it as you push back. Now I need 3 hands to do this, so I'm going to have to put the camera down. Wiggle this and start turning the screw. So once you get that, it's on there. So we can just start spinning this and it'll spin up on it. So we're going to spin her closed again so then we can start assembling the other end. So we're going to put the keyway in and we're going to put the fixed jaw in. So another area that you can lube before we put this key on is in there on the steps. You can move this forward and back and just put some grease along the rail and just bring it back and forth. So the metal and metal contact, there's some grease to kind of help with that. Do remember when you use grease, make sure you put the lid back on so you don't put debris. Those Q-tips are just so I can scoop it and put it places I need. I usually just leave those in there. Make sure you just put your cap back on, set it aside. So we're gonna put the key on now. So here's the key. We're just gonna wipe it down. So I do feel a little nick right there, so I'll be taking a file or a stone to get that off. All right, we're back. So here's the key. So right there's the end. Probably someone who took this apart before used a regular hammer, because I can kind of see an indentation on the side. So we're just going to take the file, go across it, kind of round the corner. So right there we just took it away. This side kind of looks like the same thing. Works pretty good. So I will say, if you guys have a file, this file handle is amazing. This is actually an adjustable one. Spin the back and then the teeth move. It can fit different sizes. There's a V on each side, so you can turn it sideways for different shanks, or just put it in there and twist. Gotta say, it's really nice. You can just twist it for how hard you want. It's right there, doesn't move. Had this for the past couple years and it's been awesome. I can change my files out really quick. No need to push the handles on or screw on. Don't really like the screw-ons. I like this a lot better. So we're just going to take a stone and we're just going to go across this. So this is a Norton stone, sharpening stone. Had this for a while. I don't use it too much unless if I'm working on the table. So I'll just move this across. Take any high spots off. Feels pretty good. So do it to the other side. So we're going to clean out the keyway. So just take some paper towel. That should be good. So I'm going to take a little bit of WD-40 and just spray it in here before we put the key in there. So it doesn't need a lot. So I'll just spray it in there. And then I'll just take a rag and kind of move it around a little bit. Should be good. So when it comes to the key, so length side, the long side is going to go up and down because this key is rectangular. So we're just going to center it and we're just going to push it in, and it should be good. Now if it doesn't want to, you're going to have to probably clean it again, and then you might be able to take a mallet, just tap it down. For me, I've always been able just to push the key in. Now taking it out, I usually have to hit it out with a mallet, like you saw earlier in the video. But to put it in, if you need to, you can take them out, tap it in. It's not too hard to get out afterwards. So now that that's in, we're gonna put the movable jaw, the fixed jaw on. And so we'll do that right now. So right here is the fixed jaw. So the bottom looks really clean. I don't see any nicks or anything. Cleaned out the keyway. So I'm just gonna wipe it down one more time. Now if you feel any nicks, you can take a stone just like we did before over it. So I'm not feeling anything. So we should be good. So we're going to start putting this on the vise now. I forgot to mention that when you're disassembling this, if you see any nicks or anything along the bed of the vise, mine's pretty smooth. I haven't dropped anything on it, had any nicks. There is one small nick back here, but I stoned that last time I took this apart. So it looks pretty good. So if you have that, you can just take your Norton stone again, spray some WD-40 or just some cleaner on here, and just come across and just move it up and down the rails. I already put the nut in, so I can't get everything equally, so I'm not going to, because there's also no nicks. But you can just move it across. You can feel high spots. You can also see the high spots when you do it. Like I said, mine looks really nice. No nicks in it. So we're just going to continue on from there. So when pulling the movable jaw on, The key slot's in the back, and then the 2 threaded holes are in the front. So we're going to wipe those real quick. Looks good. So when you put this on, you're just going to align it to the key and kind of center it up as best you can. And then just push down, and there it's seated. So this can move a little bit, which is we're going to need it to, because we're going to flip this over here in a minute. So when we flip this over, we got to make sure that this doesn't fall off or we grab right there, because it will come off. Right there are the 2 holes that then thread into the fixed jaw. So those are our long bolts. All right, I got both of them cleaned. So when I put these in here, I'm going to put some anti-seize on here. So I have some aluminum anti-seize. I use these for just about everything. Now they also make copper. Copper is also another really great one. The copper one's a high heat resistant, which I'll show you here in a minute. So I'm just going to put some on the bolt, thread it in there. This is just to help to make sure the bolt's not going to get stuck. So next time I take this apart, it's going to be easier. So right here is that copper based anti-seize. I kept saying copper and aluminum. It's copper based. Sorry about that. This stuff is just for high heat anti-seize. This is just kind of general purpose. They make different types. I've always just bought the aluminum and used that for just about everything, and it's worked every time. This is just another option you can use for if it's going to be high heat. We're going to have any heat to it, just so it doesn't liquefy and go everywhere. But for today, we're just going to use the aluminum. So we'll put that on the bolts. So this stuff gets everywhere, and I also have a bad habit of putting way too much. So if it sits for a long time, you're going to see a lot of water on the inside of it. This one really doesn't, but if it does, you just take the brush and stir it up. It gets everywhere. So just remember, you can wear gloves, or just make sure with the area you're working at, you don't mind having some gray dots. So we're just going to put some on the tip, put a little bit on the back. So we're going to put it through the hole. So there's a taper on the back side of this, and there's a divot. So the divot is where the ball of this half moon washer goes. The half moon washer flat sits on this angle. Alright, so we're going to take the movable jaw, clean it off, everything looks nice. Clean off the vise, clean off the angled face. So when we put it in there, I'm going to put the vise on the end. I'm going to take the half moon, and when you put it in there, it basically just goes up, and you put it in there, put it in the recess. So my little trick to this is, I'll take some of that grease that we used. I'll just get a little bit. I'll actually put it on the back side of that half moon. This is kind of to help it stick. So when I push this up in there, it doesn't fall out. It stays up in there because of that grease. So we're going to tilt this down now. So we're going to go forward, and we're just going to roll the back down slightly and slide back when we do that. So right there, it's in. Push it back. Now I don't feel it wiggling, so I'm pretty confident that that half moon washer is still in that taper. Now we're going to put the set screws in. So remember how the set screws went. The longer one went first. So we're going to screw that in there. Get the right Allen key. Just spin her in there all the way. So see when I tighten it, how it pulls back. So it means we're pushing up on that taper. So you have to turn the vise sideways so we can get it out, or get a wrench on, I'm sorry. So when you tighten this, you want to make sure it's tight, but not so tight that you can't actually move the vise. So we'll tighten it. Check for slop. There's no real slop in it. Not back and forth, not side to side. So if you leave this really loose, that back jaw is going to be able to move a whole bunch and pick up and down. So you want it tight, so when you tighten on the part, it doesn't kick up and actually turn your part as it's sitting. So it's pretty tight. We'll check it. So now we'll spin it up and down on the vise. Make sure it doesn't get into a bind anywhere from being too tight. Feels really good. So I'm going to put a part in there and I'm going to clamp it. I'm going to see how it feels. Feels good. I didn't see the vise pick up anywhere. Loosens real easy. Because sometimes if you have it too loose, the vise will pick up, get into a bind, so then when you go to break it loose, it's going to be really hard because you're trying to overcome it picking up. So that's very nice. I like that. That came out really nice. So now we have to put that backing screw into the end, just to make sure that the first set screw doesn't back out from being used a whole bunch. So it's just a small set screw. We'll just screw her in there, and I just get it snug. I don't crank on it because I don't want to damage the top of the other Allen key. So right there, it just bottomed out. So alright, right there, snug. I'm happy with that. Hey everybody, we're back. So I got the vise done. I put WD-40 on the waist. I'm just letting that sit. Started to clean all the hardware that comes with it. Make sure there's no chips on it. So I'm going to split this up into two videos actually. One's going to be over maintaining the vise, and then another one's going to be how to install a vise, tram it in, and then things you should do to your machine to prep for it. So that's it for right now. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave some comments, and we'll see you for the next one.